Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, or wherever you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Comic Con Radio. I am your host, Tom Tormey, and Comic Con Radio is powered by Comic. Excuse me. Oh gosh, I'm saying it all wrong. I got to record it. I'll fix it in post. I'm going to start over again. Welcome everyone to Comic Con Nation, not Comic Con Radio. Welcome to Cosmic Comic Nation. I'm your host, Tom Tormey, powered by Comic Con Radio, and today I am pleased to welcome my brother from Comic Con Radio, Caleb Fietsam, and he is the host of Comic Con Radio's On the Up and Jump, and he is the master of manga, the Ayatollah of anime. He's an actor and a comedian, and I am blessed and really happy to welcome you to the show. Welcome, Caleb. Welcome to Comic Con Nation.
No, Thank that's you, not Tom.
It's not Comic Con Nation. I don't know what the heck is wrong with me tonight. It's Cosmic Comic Nation. It's a lot of alliteration for
alliteration can be both a blessing and a curse.
It is. Gosh, that is definitely. This is like a fix it in post. I can picture what's
no, it's all good. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're my Comic Con Radio brother. You're going to be having your own podcast on the Up and Jump that's going to be debuting on all of the Comic Con Radio affiliates. Starting January 31st, right along.
Yeah, very soon. And I want it to be up to date, so it's going to be a lot of work tomorrow and Sunday to make sure what is most recently released is covered in the first episode.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to say the name of your show better than I said the name of mine. So.
On the Up and Jump, yeah.
If you can say the name of your show, you've already beat me in every aspect. I can't even say the name of mine.
I do have it down. I feel like it's very it's less conversational and more of like a skit segment based parody of a news show. So it's
I actually. So right. So I mean, I've already set the bar really low. So whatever you do, you're going to do way better than me. So you're welcome for that. I inadvertently, accidentally, but still, I did it for you, Caleb.
No, it's a service. It's a service that you're doing. That's why I paid. That's why I paid you $50 before we went live.
I remember that you said $50 to stutter and stammer your way through the intro.
Yeah, if you mess up the intro, it'll make me look real good. So that's I appreciate you doing that.
The least I could do. So I'm sorry I had to cut you off though. But so Cosmic Comic Nation so far has taken on more of a Q&A interview, and I've had a few amazing guests on, and I'm continuing tonight with you. But what is going to be the format of On the Up and Jump?
Yeah, so On the Up and Jump, the jump comes from Shonen Jump, which is I'm sure anyone who's familiar with manga or anime is familiar with Shonen Jump. My podcast kind of covers specifically what is being currently released by them, because they do weekly releases of chapters. And basically what I'm doing is I have a podcast kind of just focused on what Shonen Jump is producing. It's very silly. It's very skit based. It's a lot of characters that kind of come in to talk about it. So I wanted to kind of do a really like condensed, funny way of like diving into the ridiculous stuff that can kind of happen in the chapters week to week, whether it's explaining what is going on in one of them, or, just kind of talking about any critiques I have of another, like very, very fun, very silly. Like it does not take itself too seriously at all. And I think anyone who's up to date on what Shonen Jump is producing will enjoy it.
Sadly, I'm not included in that. As you probably know, my expertise falls under the umbrella of tights and capes and mostly American comics. So when we were talking, and I learned that you were an expert at this, my students were very excited that I was talking to you, because they themselves could fancy themselves manga and anime experts. So other than drawing on that from your personal and your background, what made you decide to go with the more of a skit-based format for your podcast?
I wanted to stay. I was like, it's another white dude with a podcast. So I was kind of like, how can I switch it up a little bit? And there's a few podcasts out there that do talk about manga and the recent like chapter releases, and it's very conversational. It's very like, kind of guys sitting around a mic chatting about what they think about stuff, which is
Right.
all well and good. I just didn't want to kind of my training and my background is a lot more in like creation of plus I get my friends together to try and talk about anime. It's not always the easiest thing to schedule.
Okay.
So I was like, well, if I do it on my own, I make it kind of fun. I make it skit based. I can make it stand out from the crowd a little bit. Got to use my bachelor's degree in acting for something.
Yeah. Is that really? Are you Shakespeare? You consider yourself a Shakespearean actor, huh?
I'm trained. I went to a 4-year conservatory and I got a BFA in acting.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. So that's definitely a great experience to draw on. So that's pretty cool to know. So on top of producing the podcast on the Up and Jump, are you putting that acting skill to some use out in LA?
Yeah, a national commercial I was in just started airing. If you see Breathe Right strips commercial, that's me. I'm in the forest with a mustache. And then just acting here and there. And on top of that, I get up on stage and do stand-up comedy. Has been a really fun way to kind of post-pandemic, because I graduated 2019, so I didn't get to do too much before everybody got locked inside for some reason. And then yeah, once I got out, once I was released into the wilderness, I was like, I just want to get up on stage. I want to perform. I want to be in front of an audience, and stand up seemed to be a very accessible way to do that, because they let anybody on stage.
I'm sure they may let anybody on stage, but I'm sure they don't let them keep coming back. And I'm sure.
Yeah, they do ask me to come back because I am relatively funny. I like to think so.
Oh. Well, can you hear me, Caleb?
I can hear you. The video is a little.
I see that. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Fix it in post. We'll fix it in post. I'll keep screaming. But that is very cool. So, you, like a lot of people I'm hearing about, you kind of drew upon your that kind of COVID lockdown isolation to kind of inspire you to when it was over to get out there into the world. Have you you've played a few shows, I assume, done a few live audience shows now. Do you have any coming up?
Not at this time. I do not have a specific show.
Nope. No, I'm cool. I'm there.
I was like, no live shows at this moment. Okay. But I'm sure I'm always in the kind of LA area. And I always post about it on Instagram and stuff. So it's easy to stay updated as it comes.
And how can people find you on Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram is at Fight Club, which is like Fight Club, but with an E instead of a U. Because there's not many clever nicknames you can come up with for Caleb. So I was like, once I landed on Fight Club, I was like, I'm thinking I'm going to stick with this for a while.
Fight Club. Well, I guess it's kind of like Fight Club because it kind of does look like you're talking to yourself right now. Just this big void here where there should be a video. But so that's cool. And the commercial you said is airing nationally?
Yes. Yeah. It's all over. I had a buddy say that he saw it when he was in Minnesota at a bar, just on the TV. Right. So I think it's hopping all over the place.
But I do lament to say that I'm seeing Caleb, but I'm not seeing the glorious mustache that you referred to in the video.
It did get shaved. It did get shaved.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it didn't last the last round of shaving. I think I tried to like even it out, and I just went too far on one side, and then I was like, I'm getting real close to representing something I don't want to. And I was just like, it's gotta go. The whole thing's gotta go.
Yeah. Yes, I know the feeling. Sometimes I've grown this beard out that you'll just have to pretend that you're seeing right now, and and sometimes I try to trim it, and I have to shave the whole thing because I've just messed up terribly. And I go to work the next day, and all the students and staff like, "Oh, you shaved. You should grow your beard back," which is essentially a really nice way of saying you have a face that should be hidden behind a beard.
Wall of
Like
fur.
yeah, no one should have to see this. No one should have to see this.
It grows in real patchy for me, so a full
Right.
beard is not always the best option. But the mustache has been useful here and there. But yeah, it's all stubble right now.
Well, I'm sure I can't wait to see the mustache on TV. I'm gonna make sure to look out for it. So tell me about so your first episode is going to be launching on January 31st. What are we expecting? So a skit format. We're going to be talking about manga, talking about Shonen Jump. Is there anything particular that's coming out of Shonen Jump that's really got you excited? Something that you're really interested in?
There's a lot of really strong series right now, I feel, that are kind of in the current rotation. Unfortunately, one of my favorites is Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto, and we did not get a chapter this week. They did take a week off this past Tuesday, and so we are missing a chapter, and it left off on quite a good cliffhanger. So I am very excited for Tuesday. I think I'm gonna talk about I'm going to talk about the most recent chapter, which is about 2 weeks ago. And then a lot of it will depend on what we're seeing on Sunday. Cause about Sunday morning for me, I'm in California for what's the word? Context. And, we get the chapters are released every Sunday for me around like 8:00 in the morning. Which is I wake up and I immediately read all the chapters, and that's kind of the weekly group, minus one or two that kind of is like on a Thursday, like Kaiju number 8, or Tuesday, like Chainsaw Man. So on Sunday, I definitely will be. I have like specific things already recorded that can jump to that I can kind of build a skeleton that's already there, where I can add in topical stuff. So I'm excited to see what is released on Sunday, because we've had a couple weeks off because of the holidays and stuff, and they have whole teams behind each story, and they do good work, so they deserve the holiday break. But I'm excited that we're kind of jumping back into a bit of a regular schedule, which means more work for me on the podcast, but that's work I'm happy.
I was about to say that sounds like an interesting but a grueling schedule to keep up with, and I applaud your efforts for trying to do that, or not trying to, but for doing that.
We'll see how well it works. It's gonna be, we're going for a weekly podcast is the goal.
Very cool.
There's quite a bit to cover.
Yeah. I think that's going to be my goal as well. I think this for a while, and I think I mentioned it to you before we start, is going to be the last. Right now, we're going live on YouTube as well, but from now on, I'm going to be putting it out once a week, just like we're going to be doing with the podcast. So I think a steadier schedule is going to be pretty cool for both of us. I definitely will be tuning into on the Up and Jump, and
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I want to get your opinion. I'm going to show you some pictures, and we'll describe it contextually, like you said, for people who are going to be listening to us on the podcast as well. So this is a cartoon that this is actually, that verbiage is going to come into play later. I'm saying cartoon. This is not a cartoon. This is an anime, and this is Trigun, I believe.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Trigun? Is this something that people should be getting into?
Well, I mean, definitely. First of all, anime is kind of just the Japanese word for animation. So, I don't feel pressure to correct yourself if you kind of switch up some verbiage. We definitely associate anime with a specific style and with the Japanese style.
So if can I call it like Toonie Tunes, just to make everyone
well, that might be trademarked, so I don't know about that. But,
right.
But anime and animation is a broader term than we can sometimes realize. Though if you do say anime, people do know what you're talking about. Correct, think of something like this, which Trigun is one of the first anime that I ever watched. I actually never read the original story in comic form, in manga form, but I was watching this at the time where the only way you could watch anime was like on YouTube in 5 different parts. Like one episode was part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. And it was like in the corner of the video, and the rest of it was because they were trying to avoid copywriting as much as possible. So it was like reversed and flipped upside down, and there was like an image in the background. It was only taking up like less than a quarter of the screen. And I was obsessed with Trigun, the kind of like Wild West sci-fi. They just released a kind of like revamping of the series. I believe it's a prologue to the original anime, and they use the controversial kind of CGI look, but they stylized it in a way that was really, really fascinating to watch, and I think really enjoyable. So I mean, I really am. I'm a big fan, and I'm happy to see Vash, the Stampede, the main guy there, kind of be thrown back into the spotlight, because he's a really interesting, great character.
And I appreciate you walking me through this, because I'm hoping that when I go back to work on Monday, I could sound like I know what I'm talking about. So that's another good reason for me to turn into your podcast, so I could learn.
Yeah, I mean, hey, when I was a kid, I was a big fan. I didn't get made fun of for liking manga because nobody knew what it was. So the fact that more and more kids, I think, are kind of interested in this genre is really, really cool. I've just seen it grow in kind of the American zeitgeist so much throughout my life.
Oh yeah.
That it's just been great to see this kind of, it's such a beautiful art form when it wants to be. And I think that it's just a whole world of stories that I'm happy that people are being exposed to.
If it makes you feel any better, despite the fact that I lack the knowledge in the field, I have always run for years. This is the first time in a long time I haven't anime clubs for my students. So nice. It was, even though I was moderating it, I wasn't exactly knowledgeable, but still the children were, because I got asked, "Hey, what'd you do this weekend?" I watched 7,000 episodes of Naruto, what's the, I'm like, wow, that's
One Piece is the longest running.
Right, One Piece. That's probably the one I was right. And they are infatuated with it. And this is one that also they absolutely love. And you have to forgive me. Yeah. This is haiku? No.
Yeah, I believe it's haiku, like with the Y in between the K and the U. My pronunciation is I'm working on, and part of the reason why I do a character for my podcast is if I pronounce something wrong, I can blame it on that. But this is a beautifully animated anime. Like, it is gorgeous. It's very I find that sometimes slice of life sports animes can really, or like even the manga themselves are just very well done, because they're taking these kind of like more mundane things and really heightening the emotion and heightening the stakes. This is the manga is completed. They did complete this manga. It is no longer running. And the style, I mean, when manga goes from the drawn, written art to the anime, you can sometimes see it go a little bit more traditionally, because if you look at the original art for Haikyuu, it's very unique to the artist. His style, or their style, I'm not sure what the gender of the person is. I didn't read Haikyuu specifically. It's a very unique style that stands out from a lot of its siblings that came out around the same time. And then when you look at the anime, they do kind of mainstream it just enough that you still see the flavor of the original art, but there's also still that kind of smoothness. I think Demon Slayer is a good example of that as well. But
as an anime that differs from its source material in terms of its style.
Yeah, where you see a bit of a difference between what is being drawn and what is being animated specifically.
Does that take you out? Is that draw you in? Does that affect your enjoyment of the show at all? Really?
It depends. It depends. I think Chainsaw Man I'm going to talk about Chainsaw Man a lot. To bring that into it is an interesting example of that, because they do that, but they also do it in such a specific way. Like, it's a specific choice on how they're filming it versus how it appears in the manga. Versus sometimes they're just kind of mainstreaming it. So I think if I feel that the original character that is shown in the art, the original kind of personality that appears, is lost, then I think I enjoy the written form, the art form a little bit more, because I think that sometimes that's like, it's like when you hear a song and then you hear a cover of a song,
right?
Like, it's the same, but it's different.
The soul is lacking.
I mean, and not to say someone can't really soulfully perform a cover song, but it's just, sometimes the original. I think Spy Family is one that I think of, where I love the book, I love the art, and sometimes there were moments that were really done well in the book that didn't scratch that itch for me in the anime specifically, because sometimes just the art is just so good, and the moments they choose to highlight and put weight on are just done so well. So personally, I'm always like, if anyone's asking me about any anime, I'm like, I recommend reading it instead.
Sure. I mean, the source material generally, I mean, as they transition from page to screen, whether it's from manga to anime, from comic to cartoon or film, sometimes there are things that are lost in translation.
There are things that are gained, things that are lost, and kind of an in between. But Haikyuu is beautifully animated, so that none of that really applies to Haikyuu. It's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous anime. It's very funny.
Dragon Ball Z, among many of the anime, many of the manga, has had such longevity to it. I mean, this is one, and I'm 44, and this is one that I've been aware of for quite some time. Aware of its existence, not necessarily plays out.
Yeah. Well, Goku, I mean, it was Goku who was recently in the Macy's parade. Like, he has become a very, like, an extremely identifiable character that even people who do not know anime at all maybe don't know his name, but know who he is. Like, know that, it's like Sonic or Mario. Like, you see this character, you see these colors, and you're like, I'm familiar with that.
I generally get asked on a weekly basis, as I'm sure you do as a fan, who'd win, and whoever the character could be. Goku versus Superman, who would win? I always go with I generally go with the Stan Lee answer. It just depends on who's writing at the time. But it is fun to debate. It is fun as long as you're kind of being cool, calm, and rational about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
There has definitely. I mean, for the longest time, Goku was just the top of that. Like, it was, no matter how strong a character coming into, like, the mangaverse was, it would be Goku stands at the top. And I think that, and then kind of with the introduction of One Punch Man, that was kind of playing off of what that was. And we see that in the American version of, like, No One Left to Fight, I believe it's called, is an American comic that's a direct kind of parody of Dragon Ball Z. And not parody, satire, I guess, is a better, because it's not, it does take itself seriously. And I think that now, as people have critical thinking skills develop, and people now kind of put Sailor Moon above Goku and Kirby above everything. So it's interesting to see kind of how that conversation has changed. But I also think Akira Toriyama is just such a very strong kind of parody writer, because I first read Dr. Slump, which was his series prior to Dragon Ball Z, which is just about this, like, little robot girl, and it's very, it's very gag humor. Everything is kind of its own joke. It's, he's very open. He can be Akira Toriyama, the writer, can be very perverted, which you see in Dr. Slump, and you also see in Dragon Ball, the kind of original story of Goku as a kid. And Goku itself, like Dragon Ball itself, was kind of written with the intention of being a humorous experience, and not so much, people really take Dragon Ball seriously because it's just gotten so, he's fighting God now. But it started out as a very kind of like joke based gag humor kind of thing with a very specific story of like, here's this kid, he's gonna go get the Dragon Balls. But it's withheld the test of time very well. Yeah. With more and more stuff. I mean, Dragon Ball Super is still going on. Dragon Ball Z Super, yeah. That's going on, and right now they're talking about his kid his grandson.
Are you able to follow the Dragon Ball Z story? From what I understand, it is quite difficult to follow.
It's cut and dry. It is.
Oh, get out. Okay.
And I will say, because people, I mean, in the anime, it's very well known for the anime is one fight takes about a whole season because they're screaming and powering up the whole time. So people express like, I just kind of want to see the action. But the story, I mean, it's very like Goku shows up.
Right.
There's an enemy that's really strong. Goku fights him. Maybe he loses for a second, but he always kind of comes out on top. It's pretty cut and dry. I as great of as great of a writer Akira Toriyama can be.
Right.
Dragon Ball Z is pretty straightforward. It does not get too complicated. There were a few moments where it got a little complicated, but I mean, like GT, but no one really talks about that.
I mean, looking at this cast of characters. Just looking at this cast of characters that I'm seeing here, and is one of the things that they are fighting over like hair gel? Is there?
You would think this is an interesting image, specifically like of a bunch of Saiyans, and I recognize a good number of them. But I think this might be a slight offshoot project.
Gotcha. I'm
an
outsider. It looks like the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great shot of I think it's a collection of all the Saiyan characters that have appeared.
Yeah, in a world where hair.
Yeah, and this is not the kind of titular cast that you would normally see, because I think something too that Akira Toriyama does well is he doesn't really feel the need to explain stuff. I don't know if it's because he's lazy or because he just doesn't care. I mean, because like his world that he's created, Goku is an alien who comes to the planet and hits his head as a baby, so he actually ends up being nice, instead of kind of like his natural demeanor if he was left on his planet would be kind of more vicious, more kind of anger. Like there's the Vegeta Goku comparison, which is these are the kind of two similar characters with very different upbringings, and that's kind of that's the basis for his life. But then when he's going throughout the world, you just see a random citizen of the city, and it's a talking tiger. There's no explanation for like, why do animals talk? Why is his best friend a pig?
You know what? I will say about situations like that.
It is.
Yeah, right, exactly. In situations like that, once they explain to you why the tiger's talking, will you then be like, oh, yeah, okay. Maybe he just kind of realizes that at no point would any explanation for a talking tiger be adequate. So you just roll with the punches kind of deal.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Me and a buddy were talking about this, but recently, in the recent chapters of Dragon Ball, that were focused on the grandson of Goku and the son of Vegeta, and there's another character that the grandson that Trunks. I'll say these names, and you may not know who they are, but people
not a clue, but I kind of
do. Trunks is kind of infatuated with this character, Mai. And Mai was a villain in the original Dragon Ball when Goku was a child, and she was an adult but now she's like a teenager, and they do not explain why she all of a sudden went from an adult to a child. And we were just really we were like going through the wiki, like, where did this happen? Because there's whole new chapters. I was like, wait, isn't she, if she's the same Mai, like, isn't she old? And apparently there was just one time she showed back up in the series, and she was just a kid again for some reason.
I guess
so
for the plot,
I think
right?
it's sometimes it's like, oh, this is kind of just we're just gonna make this happen because it's more convenient for the story.
Oh yeah. No harm in that. No harm in that. You get to play around with your own fictional characters. They're your property. Have fun with them, right?
Yeah. You don't need to follow any rules. People are still gonna love Dragon Ball as much as they ever will.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything that could really be done to kind of slow that roll.
Where does My Hero Academia fall on your list of favorite anime or manga?
Yeah, I mean, I think Horikoshi has really, I fell in love with it after it had already been kind of around for a while. I think my appreciation of it wanes in and out. It's still currently running. Right now, it's actually in a very like high stress, high pressure situation right now. A big showdown between kind of the main hero and the main villain, and all the heroes and all the villains. I think the thing that drew me in really effectively that My Hero did was the character, was the uniqueness in character. I think they did a great job of like, here's a wide variety of interesting characters who get fleshed out pretty well. I know My Hero is pretty popular with a crowd a few years below me in age as well. But I think it's strong. I think it's strong. It's my understanding that it's getting close to its end. And definitely the hype is real. I mean, I went to Comic-Con and I saw a lot of My Hero cosplays. I know that there's a lot of love for it. I do think sometimes it falls into this trap, the anime specifically, of it's like, oh, an event occurs, and then they go like person by person by person reacting to that event. And I'm like, I don't need to know everybody's feelings all the time. Like, we can kind of focus on who's important in the scene right now. But yeah, I think I think it's really strong, and I think the love for it is real. Tom, did I lose you? I can keep talking about it. I think I lost you, Tom. I can't. If you're talking, I can't hear you. Oh, I heard you for a second there. I'm getting like little grunts. Hey, everybody. it's just me. Yeah, I recommend My Hero. If you like superpower stuff, then I just got a text from Tom. I'll hold down the fort while Tom is experiencing technical difficulties. I assume it's still, yes, it is still live. My Hero is great. If you want a good superhero story of like everyone has different powers, there's some unique powers. I think that some characters are a little bit over sexualized, but then yeah, I can carry on for a minute, Tom. I got it. You know, that's a problem that Japan runs into a lot. Not Japan the country, well, Japan the country a little bit. But definitely manga runs into that issue just a bit. Hi, Tom.
Hi, sorry. I just decided I had enough of it. I wanted to leave for a little bit. Now I'm back. No, I
no worries. We all need just a little pee break or something. You're all good.
This is a strange world to me, and I'm just learning. So I appreciate your patience.
No, it's all good. I spend my this Made in Abyss is a wild little one. I do not recommend it to
So
youngins.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about this. I've never heard it discussed. You mind telling me what are your thoughts on this one?
I Enjoyed it. I mean, I liked it. I definitely had some like it. Sometimes it's interesting because sometimes it's like there's a weird moment in the beginning. It's like they're orphans of some kind. Um, she does something and gets in trouble, and they like the punishment is very strange. Which was a weird way to start this series. Sorry, I'm getting. I need to silence this. How do I do that? Okay. I do not recommend it for youngins.
Oh, really?
It gets no, it looks that's the thing is it looks like
Yeah.
it's for kids. Which that happens with some manga and anime where it's like, oh, they're really cute. It gets messed up. It gets messed up pretty quick. Which so if you like a dark, kind of body horror-esque anime, then it's kind of fun. But
No,
I don't. This
that's
JoJo's is wild. This is one that his popularity is skyrocketed, and it's really unique. I would say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stands out because it's unique. The art, I read it. I don't really watch it because I don't watch it. I don't watch the show because
okay.
some of the voice acting
as well
is grating. Huh?
Is this a dark experience as well? This kind of looks like JoJo's.
It is very stylized. So things that happen that are dark, things do happen that are pretty messed up. Like in the first season, the blonde guy like kills the blue-haired guy's dog, and it's sad and it's messed up. But the art style is so specific that it I don't know. For me, it negates it. I actually have a hard time reading it because of the art style, not because I don't like it, but because sometimes I can't tell what's going on.
Okay. I mean,
if people love JoJo, they love JoJo. There's not like, oh yeah, it's good. It's like people either love it or hate it. But I'm always a big fan of something that is not afraid to be far away from like a stereotypical manga style.
I will say that the art kind of has like a almost like a dark kind of Castlevania feel to it, where the logo of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure looks like something you would see on like Powerpuff Girls. The two things don't really mesh, in my opinion. But I guess as you mentioned, this is one I hear a lot about. People seem to love. It's definitely one that I've considered. I think this one's on Netflix, or at least the anime is.
It's very like the characters are very specific. They're very flamboyant. The power system is wild. The artist is a very like flamboyant artist. Like their characters are very like do all these wild poses, and even in the other work that they do, I think Rohan's. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It's about a writer. It's very like flamboyant poses and outfits, and I think it's really creative in that way. Where just like the character design is not afraid to be different, and this is the classic. This is the shining star, the golden child of manga.
Adventure. With JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and that flamboyant style, as you said, and the extreme animation, that really is one of the cool things that you can really only do in this kind of art form. If you try to make that into a live action and maintain that kind of style, you're not pulling that off.
It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. I believe there was a live action JoJo movie. I could be mistaken though. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's definitely. I would imagine that the costume designer would have a great time working on that film because they wear some wild outfits.
I bet.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's a fun.
And we're looking at
a fun premise. It's a fun concept.
And now we're looking at Naruto. What this is high on just about everybody's list, right?
It is. It's up there, man. It's gotten its fair share. It definitely. It's a shame because I feel like the recent stuff has been. It just had a magic to it. I think around the time that it was coming out, and then the series about his son, and then some of the like other series like kind of have fallen to the wayside of popularity. But like this right here, what we're looking at was a gem of a series for sure. It's interesting how it goes from, you really think it was one of the first that I read for sure. And, I fell in love with it. I think the first initial, when he's young, this is Shippuden right here.
Right.
When he's a teenager. But the initial series of him being kind of like a young orphan, just have just a great balance of character and stakes and these like really life or death scenes that just I remember hitting me very emotionally. And then that carried on into the later parts of the series. And then I don't necessarily feel that as much with Boruto and the other stories that they're releasing, but it's hard. It's not always, sometimes things should just end.
Is Naruto still on?
Naruto is not, but Boruto is, which is kind of follows his son. Yes, yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, I read the manga. I don't really keep up with the anime because anime has released a lot of episodes, and all of it is original work because the series itself is the comic series, the manga series is significantly shorter than the anime that they've been releasing. I think they're also releasing kind of like these extra stories. There's one about Sasuke and there's one about Asuma Sarutobi's daughter, which are, I don't know why this is happening. I don't know what they're doing or what the plan is, but I'm reading it. So, maybe just because I'm addicted to the series and I can't stop, but Sasuke's fighting dinosaurs right now, which is an interesting choice.
You know what? You can't go wrong with dinosaurs. The only thing that makes dinosaurs better than being dinosaurs is if you make them into like robot dinosaurs, and that's just a win for everything.
I know Naruto is just interesting because it's such a classic. It's really good. I think when you kind of hold a magnifying glass up to it in terms of like the history of it, of the world that has been created, it's kind of changed. It's like Dragon Ball. It's like stuff just kind of changes as it's convenient.
Right.
So
I guess that's expected.
If you really want to dive in, you could talk about some other stuff that, I like. Kishimoto is a really great writer. Are the women written amazingly? No. Is the history of the village super specific? Not all the time. It plays like a period piece, but it's actually a sci-fi. It's kind of interesting in that way.
Well, right. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. My favorite fact is Sanji in One Piece was actually supposed to be named Naruto. It was supposed to be named Naruto, but then this came out, and so they changed it to Sanji.
Oh, very cool. I mean, these are amazing things. I really I don't know much about them, but I know that they have millions of fans all around the world. Tons of fans.
This is in the middle of a huge popularity poll. I don't think they decided on who won yet, but whoever wins the popularity poll out of all the characters, and I mean all the characters, like the most random people, whoever wins that popularity poll will get their own like little short story.
From Naruto?
From Naruto, yeah.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So that's good.
I'm looking at who's at the top right now.
So, that's cool. So I'm really looking forward to On the Up and Jump launching on January 31st because I really do want to learn a lot about anime and manga, and I want to go back into school and I want to look like I know what I'm talking about, like I sometimes do with when I listen to sports broadcasts and I go to work and I pretend like I know what I'm talking about. So I want to do that with anime and manga, and I really want to get into some of them because, like you said, the animation style is absolutely so beautiful. But before we round up, before we wrap up, I should say, I want to go over a few things that I want to get your opinion on. And
okay,
we'll do a rapid fire. What do you think? Dubs versus subs? What side are you on?
I mean, I gotta be on subs. That's a pretty easy answer. I mean, I listen to dubs because I'm a voice actor, and I there's some really strong English voiceover performances. But most of the time, I think that the Japanese voice actors really just put their give 100%. And that's a little bit more rare when you listen to the English voice actors. So I'm a subs guy all the way. If I need to do chores, then I'm going to put on a dub just because I need to understand. I don't speak Japanese.
Gotcha.
I don't know if anyone can tell that I don't speak Japanese, but
Yeah.
so I'll put on a dub here and there. But subs, if I had to put gun to my head, subs.
Okay. Well, I'll try not to do. I won't. But I will. Don't worry about not speaking Japanese. I'm from Brooklyn, and every language that comes out of my mouth sounds terrible. I don't even speak the. So don't sweat it. In terms of, and I think I know how you feel about this. You're talking about Dragon Ball Z. You're talking about Big Hero Academia, My Hero Academia. Excuse me. I combined Big Hero 6 and My Hero Academia together.
It's all good. It's all good.
You're talking about it with people. Are you saying anime? Are you saying cartoons?
If I'm saying anime if I'm talking about that stuff. Yeah, I mean people just kind of recognize that word as being associated with that stuff. I stay true to the idea that anime just is a word that you can call it animation. I can't think of any cartoons that Avatar: The Last Airbender is an anime. What's the one Finn and Jake? Why can't Adventure Time? Like that's technically anime.
Well,
not because it's an anime style, but because anime is just Japanese for animation. But if I'm talking about
those are coming out of Japan, those animations are coming out of Japan. Is that what you?
No. It's just anime is the Japanese word for animation. So anything that is animated is technically anime.
So can in your opinion, can Americans make anime?
I don't think I'm scared to say an answer. I feel like I don't. I think it's an intro. I mean, no, yeah, wait, technically, yeah, because animation and I was thinking manga because manga is very specific. But anime, yeah, Americans make anime all the time. I mean, it's just animation. Anime means animation. People get pretty holy with the word and can kind of hold it to a specific meaning. I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the most successful cartoons in the American, Western zeitgeist, all over the world, really. And that is very heavily inspired by, traditional Japanese anime. But anime is technically just animation. I do know, like, there's some people I know that have worked on drawing manga specifically in that kind of style, and they have referred to themselves as mangaka, which is a writer of manga, and I think people can kind of feel the need to gatekeep that term, as in if you're not from Japan, you can't write manga or you can't be a mangaka, which is ironic because one of the most successful, Dr. Stone, which was a very my dog is barking in the background. It's a very successful. Yeah, Dr. Stone is a very successful manga, but it's written by its writer is South Korean, and no one kind of really bats an eye at that. And so, but then you have an American maybe idolizing and working towards making something in that style, and it's kind of gatekept.
I understand.
So it's interesting. It's interesting.
You see a lot of gatekeeping online, so I understand that perfectly. In terms of now, this can be taken two different ways, so I'm going to clarify. So new versus classic, but what I really mean about that is, for example, and you had mentioned, for example, your love of Naruto, and then also the new Boruto. That could be new versus classic, but let me toss out the idea that for the older crowd and for people who go back a little bit, movies like Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, or Akira, or even going back as far as Astro Boy.
I mean, yeah, that's hard. That's a wide umbrella. And then it's interesting actually because the Tezuka, the guy who created Astro Boy took a lot of inspiration from Disney specifically. So a lot of Disney influence in kind of his original pieces of work. And he's kind of, I think they look to him as kind of like the guy who started Astro Boy as being one of the first like anime.
Yeah, I think he's
Akira being one of the first that made it to America. And that is a wild, I'll tell you, that's a movie worth watching.
What movie?
And, sorry, go ahead.
No, say that one more time. What movie's worth watching?
Akira.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Then you have oh gosh, Spirited Away was nominated for an Oscar. I don't remember if it won off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, I think what I really love is I think a lot of the newer stuff is breaking away from stereotypes and traditions that aren't necessarily needed. You see kind of like, I think like Jujutsu Kaisen, which they still like, a lot of these newer series will still fall into those traps where they'll have like, I think My Hero Academia. I was saying this when you were off for a second, but the thing with My Hero Academia is some of the characters can be a little bit over sexualized. You have this trope that appears in several newer manga, throughout history, of like a character being like weirdly obsessed with a sibling in kind of an incestual way. And it's a shame because I feel like more and more of these newer manga are kind of breaking away from those kind of tropes that haunt the kind of fictional space. And I'm excited to see that happen more. I think Jujutsu Kaisen does a great job of like not falling into those things, minus like one or like a single character. I think the kind of love that you see in America for manga and the creators that you see there, that there's a couple like webtoon-esque online mangas that really break form because we're not, we're outside of the world of it a little bit. So I'm always a proponent of like what's new and what's coming up, because I think that's who's going to change the game. I think the classics are so great here. Like I love all of Ghibli's stuff. I love all of, I read all of Dragon Ball. I read Berserk. I read Naruto. I read Full Metal. I wouldn't say Full Metal is like a classic because I feel like it's still pretty new. But it's, there's people that really pave the way for like the newer gen. People talk about the big three. They talk about Ichigo, Naruto, and Luffy from One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, respectively. And then there's always a talk about who's the next big three, which I feel like there's so many that it's hard to kind of. People were like Deku from My Hero and Tanjiro from Demon Slayer and somebody else, and I feel like now it's not so cut and dry anymore, because there's just so much. There's just so much being put out. Which is true of every form of media.
Sure.
But I love stuff that changes the game. I like stuff that shakes stuff up and breaks free of stuff that has been in place because of like the patriarchy or anything like that.
I think we could all kind of agree that the further away we move from animation and manga and comic books celebrating incestuous relationships, I think we're all better for it. I think. Yeah, so,
I agree. Which it's still, it's a shame. It's because like you're reading and you're like, oh, I love this story. Like Spy Family is objectively damn near perfect, I think.
Right.
And then there's just one character who's just like in love with his sister in a very strange way, and it's like basically his whole personality. And I'm just like, you were so close to just being unproblematically perfect, and then you have to throw this in. I'm like, why is this? Because it's not even like it's like a trope. It's like other mangas do it, so they do it. Like it's not an original idea. And I'm like, so why do you need that there? Like, why do you need that character to be like that when you could just have
maybe a manga about the therapy? That might be appropriate.
Honestly. Yeah. I wouldn't. They have manga about everything. They really do.
I'm sure. It's a great medium, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. I'm so glad that you're knowledgeable about it. I really can't wait to hear more about it on the Up and Jump, which is launching on January 31st on Comic-Con Radio and all of Comic-Con Radio affiliates, right alongside Cosmic Comic Nation. So, Caleb, really very cool, man. I can't wait to check out, watch your commercial and see your stand-up and follow you on Fight Club, which is on Instagram. I'll be putting the link in this. I don't know how the hell you put links in this stuff, but I'll be doing it. I'll be doing that thing that I just said because now I said it and I have to commit to it. Yeah. But Caleb, thanks for your time. I can't wait to have you back on. We'll talk some more after the launch of the shows, and it should be a lot of fun. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Bro.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. I'm Tom Torme, and this was Cosmic Comic Nation. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Be well and stay safe, everybody.